correctly in that sense, but not in any particular order. From the first grouping, we felt important about community impact being maintaining community character. From cultural heritage, we'd like to enhance festivals and events. Diversity and equity, kind of a combination of those first two. Accessible infrastructure, information, interpretation. That kind of goes together for us. Economic sustainability, capturing visitor spending with our local businesses. In the environment, we want to keep high on our minds addressing water usage, conservation, quality, and preventing wildfires. Visitor management are two of the things that we were high on for sure. Were maintaining the welcome and visitor monitoring and data collection. And in governance, there was a sense of a lack of coordination, certainly on a regional basis, of coordination for that data collection, monitoring, reporting, and using that data for decision making. That was our talk.
God, that's a mouthful. It is a lot. Yeah, great. Let's see. Our group was in community impacts, workforce housing, availability and affordability. Yes.
Yep.
And 9, access to recreational area or businesses. Super important. And cultural heritage. We had under-visited and understaffed museums. And Al is sitting on our committee. Yes, yes! Al is there. And number 2, preservation of historical buildings and homes. Please, 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 let's not be one of them that go down. No. Diversity, DEIA. Number 1, accessible infrastructure. And number 9, encouraging and recognizing inclusive hosts. Economic stability, we had supporting tourism entrepreneurs and business startups. And we also had facilitating public-private partnerships.
No, it was increasing livable wages and perks for workforce.
6. Oh, increasing livable wages, my bad. And then environment, we did addressing water usage, reducing energy uses, waste management, and protection of the wildlife. Even though mule deers look like they're from another planet. When I got here, I'm like, wait.
Do you know they look at you and say the same thing?
They must, because Massachusetts deer, their ears are like this.
Yeah.
Anyway, hi. And then you get here, and it's like, I'm like, okay, really, there are.
We saw some fishers this morning. They were like 15 feet from us, and they're scary.
And they're weird up ears. I'm telling you, that
When
freaks
they
me
come
out.
in, they go.
Weird ears, weird ears.
Great job, you guys. Those are good, and not a lot of duplication.
No.
I don't think there was really any.
No, one duplicate.
That's awesome. All right, so we're going to shift gears and start talking about like how do we address these priorities. So, can anyone tell us this is?
An onion?
Onion. Many layers.
Peeling the onion.
I guess it could be a clove of garlic. It's an onion. You're right. So, peeling the layers to understand what is tourism's role in solving and helping to solve some of these issues. We can't solve them all, but we can certainly play a role. So, the questions we asked to kind of get to that role is, so you've got your priority. Who's already working to address this issue? Who would we partner with to help address the issue? What's causing it? What needs to be done? What has already been done? And what have other destinations done to address the issue? And then what is the role of the tourism industry, both statewide, regionally, and locally, to solve this problem? And so I'll give you an example, because this is pretty abstract. So working to address the issue, the Colorado Dark Sky, Colorado chapter of Dark Sky International.
What exactly is dark sky? Because at night all skies are dark, so what does that mean?
Well, let me get through this and we'll see if this answers your question.
sorry.
And then, no, because it's a really great question.
Yeah.
And so when you are dark sky certified, you have to meet certain criteria
Well,
that reduces glare and light trespass and sky glow and things like that.
oh.
So
She's a Texan.
when you
So-
think of like,
Sometimes,
You have to talk slowly.
here's an example. I live 2 miles outside of town, and when the sky's clear, I can see the Milky Way from
Me
my
too.
porch.
Oh,
Me too.
Yeah.
okay.
I love that.
yeah, I was gonna say that if I lived in Eagle County for a long time and when I moved to Denver, I'm like, where are the stars going? Because there's just so much other light heating with the starlight. Yeah. So what's causing the issue is glare from lighting, light trespassing, and sky glow. So what needs to be done? Using dark sky friendly lighting in public spaces at your home and your business, creating new local lighting ordinances, and trying to obtain a dark sky places designation. So what has been done? There are 10 parks in Colorado that are designated dark skies and 5 communities. In South Tyrol, Italy, they put in new lighting regulations that require decorative and shop window lighting to be turned off overnight and limiting the luminance and color temperature of the lighting that you can install. And then what is the role of the Colorado tourism industry? As an example, the CTO offered a dark sky mentor program where you got technical assistance to be able to kind of navigate that application and understand the process of becoming a dark sky designated place. And it's kind of a hot thing. People are really interested in going to places because then that also, you can take that and infer that the destination cares about other things too, right? If they cared enough to become a dark sky designation, they care about the environment, they care about other things too. So hopefully that gives you a little inspiration on our next exercise. But now I'm going to turn it over to Amoeba, who has spent countless hours researching and really kind of
5 slides.
yeah. Yeah. Are you coming up here? Yeah. Okay.
Alright. So, as we talked about, we're going to be looking into benchmarking, which is basically just a fancy term for looking at what other places are doing in terms of destination stewardship. Destination stewardship is still a relatively new concept and framework that people are operating under. So, when you look at different countries, it's a lot of sort of maybe the typical players you would think of who are at the forefront of this, like New Zealand, Canada, Switzerland. And in the US, there's really only a handful of states that are doing a resiliency plan or a destination stewardship plan similar to this, and that would really be California, Hawaii, Montana is embarking on something similar. So we are really at the forefront of this in this planning space, which is really exciting, but there are also some inspirations to take a look at. And I want to be cognizant that all of these different places that we'll talk about in benchmarking have very different maybe government systems, cultural systems. So some things may be feasible here, some things may not be, but I want this to be a space of sort of inspiration and thinking of creativity while we switch after this to sort of thinking of solutions to some of these problems. So when it comes to New Zealand, they are really big leaders on sort of the environmental forefront. Their tourism strategy really partners heavily with the Ministry of Business Innovation and the Department of Conservation, and they really sort of have a whole government approach at the national level, which is really, really cool. Their main pillars are really focused on marketing and promotion, visitor experience, and resource management. However, I think something that's really relevant to Colorado and that they mention in almost all of their planning documents is they have a lot of negative local attitudes towards tourism. Very heavily visited. Yeah. They're a very heavily visited area, and they tend to embrace, on the environmental side, a very sort of concentrated tourism strategy. we have the toilets, we have the paved roads, we have the infrastructure, the trash available for you. So different places take different approaches, and New Zealand is much more in that aspen category of trying to concentrate based on the biodiversity and birds that they have there that are really important to be protected. Other places like British Columbia and Switzerland, which I'll get to, are much more in that dispersal range right now of trying to get tourists to other areas. New Zealand also has a big focus on hospitality training and changing sort of local sentiments for both residents and people working in the hospitality space. Similar to sort of the Colorado Tourism Office's Learning Labs program, they have an ambassador program to help teach folks about their own areas so they can sort of understand why a tourist would visit Trinidad. I think if we were talking in La Junta and people say, businesses will say, well, there's nothing to do here. And that's not what you want to tell a tourist. You want to say, oh, I know these places to go to, and this is where you should go for dinner and have your hotel. You're going to say something?
I have a question when you're done.
Yeah. Okay. So they also do a lot of focus on, with this ambassador program, of helping hospitality workers understand sort of people coming from different cultures, particularly because they have a high amount of international visitors, and just understanding those differences and being more cognizant of different barriers that different tourists might be facing. They also, what's really neat is their indigenous group, the Maori, have their own tourism office and their arts institute. So they sort of have a really institutionalized partnership with the indigenous groups in the country. Next one, thinking about Switzerland, very interesting because they are a very small country, but what's really relevant is they are very focused on sort of climate change and the environment and how that's impacting particularly their ski towns and such, as well as they are really trying to push more rural tourism and more dispersion throughout the country. So there's a large focus on sort of understanding that rural heritage ties with outdoor recreation and sort of combining the force and making a more holistic visitor experience. One thing that I think is really, really neat about their sustainability efforts is they have this program called Swiss Sustainable, which is very hard to pronounce and a little silly, but it's a great name. And what they do is at the national level, they actually provide funding to their DMOs on smaller levels, so other tourism organizations and tourism marketing orgs throughout the country to do their own sustainability work. So whether that's trail maintenance in their community or, understanding sustainability, promoting sustainable itineraries for folks and that sort of work. So it's encouraging a local response to address different needs that different places might be facing. As you can see by this graphic that looks very small here, they have incorporated sustainable tourism into a larger part of their sort of development and strategic plan nationwide. So it goes to climate, energy, and biodiversity, equal opportunities and social cohesion. They also have a very similar focus to New Zealand in sort of working on hospitality training with international visitors in particular. And what I think is really cool is they also do a lot of marketing and have diverse representation in their marketing, and especially promoting how clean they are, how safe they are compared to a lot of other countries, as well as the sort of different outdoor guiding. They have a whole campaign of just like women mountaineering trips and such. So really, really interesting and innovative marketing techniques. Then we can look at British Columbia, which I think has also a lot of similarities to Colorado, a lot of sort of ski towns, a lot of winter visitation, summer visitation, and not much else, and a lot of very concentrated visitation to certain spaces, mostly resort communities and the big city. So they have a really strong partnership, like New Zealand, with Indigenous Tourism BC, and they have an awesome campaign called Our Story, Your Experience, which is really enabling Indigenous groups in the province to tell their story, their history, and share their culture issues with negative local sentiment, high traffic, depletion of resources, and we can already see a lot of these tensions coming up with the recent wildfires and how that's impacting visitation and feelings around tourism. So they've been really trying to recycle a lot of their tourism dollars into community investment, particularly in transportation and housing. And they also have sustainability goals aligned with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So it's really neat because they're aligned with sort of broader climate change goals in addition to their own community needs and destination stewardship. What I think is really cool, and going back to that conversation about the importance of data and visitor monitoring and tracking, is WISE actually using data to understand high spending, lower impact visitors. So really identifying what is that ideal visitor in terms of getting the most bang for your buck, but also maybe being the nicest to the environment as possible, and sort of trying to thread that needle with who they're marketing to and why they're marketing to these specific populations. So really, really interesting stuff. This was a lot of research thrown at you. So happy to take any questions or comments about any of these places.
So my question of you a while ago that I wanted to ask was, you mentioned educating our industry workers. So I worked with one of the college staff members on putting together frontline leadership training. We worked on this for a couple of months. Finally got it together. We had the funding in place. We had everything in place. We sent out the invitation. We got 0 response. How do I market it to our industry workers, our frontline leaders, that the importance of being educated on your community, how to treat your visitors, how to, I don't know how to market it any better. We did a fantastic job of marketing, trying to express the importance of being visitor ready, knowledgeable about the community, how to treat the visitors, everything. And I don't know, we missed the boat somewhere.
One thing that we've learned with our learning labs is really making the frontline worker feel like they're a critical part of the place that they are in. So, really emphasizing and really focusing on how to, make it clear that they're so appreciated and they're, as important as anything else for the visitor experience.
So Jackson, would you do that prior? Like, would you go and introduce yourself and invite them in person? Because if you don't do that, then how do you make them feel that way if they're not coming?
Yeah, it is a difficult group to get in front of. There's, it's be that door to door, conversations. It's hard to just reach out to.
Well, this town's small enough to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to input to that. I've only been on the job at the theater for 11 months, and the way I made an immediate impact is going door to door to everybody. Hi, I'm the new executive director. Hi, this is my face. This is what we're doing. How can we help you? That was really my question. But the only reason I'm sharing, I think everybody here is over-emailed and over everything. So I find that Trinidad runs on a human connection. And when I don't do that, and I'm not saying you don't do that because you're very warm and welcoming, and so is everybody here, I see my numbers go down. And I'm trying to find somebody else that is that way, so I'm not doing that all day because then I can't apply for grants or do other things,
But stroke the ego. Okay.
Yeah, it really is. Or hire somebody,
Yeah.
that has that kind of, hi, this is what, and you first, what's not working? This is what we can offer you, la la la. This is really what put the theater on the map for us in a very short time.
So Ashley, let's put that on our.
So do you have a learning lab? Because I had brought that up in the last
We
one.
have Canyons and Plains Learning Lab, and we have a state learning lab right now. We
Because I know
don't have a
Alamosa-
Trinidad Learning Lab.
Alamosa just did it this.
Alamosa just did it.
Lab.
Yeah,
So I was wondering, so we
have
hadn't done
Kansas
that.
Plains, and we have state.
Okay, yeah, I did bring that up.
Plains
briefly.
one is broken down by county.
Right.
So you could highlight Los Angeles County and some of the introductory stuff first, and then, encourage them once they get through that to explore the other counties. Because it might be overwhelming with all 7 counties, but if they focus on the introduction and then your county first,
What I
it's a little more
can't do is
digestible.
volunteer Main Street because we need to do that.
And private bricks.
And so, we do it about once a month, but not enough, obviously. So if that's something that we can work together on.
Well, we are, so I'll get with Donna and we'll reach out to, our gold standard training. It's amazing training.
What's the training for, Marty? I mean, specifically, how did you market it? Were you out on Facebook Chatter and all of that?
Everything, I did everything.
And it's training in,
Frontline leadership, so how to be welcoming, how to,
Hospitality.
yeah, how to be hospitable to your visitors, how to let them know what's going on in the community.
So maybe we go and talk to some of the hotels and
Whether you are welcoming.
start
And then
there.
once you have
Welcoming and
this
they're not
first
at all.
group, then you have these testimonials, you have alumni that can then help.
I say maybe
for
focus
you.
on the hotels first.
yeah.
And we did.
And you know what?
That's
I will
actually
tell
what it's
you,
based on is, discourse, yes.
discourse,
Discourse.
Desk.
desk clerks.
Discourse.
Let's just turn that up, Marge, a little bit more. What I will tell you, I did this in New York City, is I did trainings for all different kind of groups, doctors, lawyers, dentists, steel workers, and they would come and they would take an improv 2-hour workshop, which would loosen them up, deal with everything, and then we would improvise and put them into a situation, i.e., how to do an interview, i.e., how to speak to their group. And I've done that at Toyota twice, and it's really effective. I'm wondering if maybe I could help you offer that. I did that at the New York level, and it was very, because they go, and then they feel less of their own entrapment, right? And it really breaks people open.
The program is good. It's getting them there.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe you could say, there's improv, it's going to be fun, and going face to face. I'm happy to help, whatever you need.
Yeah, because we really need some kind of.
And can their employer offer any kind of incentive for them?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
It's almost reaching into employers. We do have the workforce certificate, what's it called? Workforce Solutions. Yeah. But yeah, I'm so disappointed it just didn't work, and you guys tried to canvas. But it begs the question to me of who are the employers that, because a frontline worker is taking a day off to do that. Or part of a day to do that,
Right.
and how's that incentive? And you're not
Great
gonna,
question.
you know what I mean? That's a handshake with whoever. So maybe it's industry by industry. Maybe it's
Yeah,
starting
maybe
with
you start
hotels
with
and a few key
It was
hotel
industry by industry.
Because, I mean,
managers.
There's no better customer service than a dispensary.
That's right. That's
They
right.
are the
That-
most
yeah.
polite, the most
They appreciate their customers.
educated, yeah, and they're just, everything's of course, no worries. You know.
Marty, that's the answer. Free cannabis with the training.
Yeah, gummies for everybody.
But I'm telling you, Colorado was one of the first states. Maybe you could partner with one of native roots. I'm not saying
I'm
you
just
could
saying-
smoke, but I'm saying what would happen if you did partner with like native roots, like a top United States corporation, and said, why not? Colorado is leading edge on that. I can ask.
And so was Trinidad,
And
honestly,
so
we
was
were the capital.
Trinidad.
Yeah.
I think finding those groups of frontline workers who are super passionate about being a frontline worker and love their line of work, I think those are a great group of people to start with, and because they already have the buy and they're proud and just want to be better.
I feel like it'd be nice if you could have, at some point, the learning labs and this course be a part of onboarding for any employee and get to that point where it's just sort of baked in to these businesses and organizations. And I don't know if that requires incentive because you're
What is
paying
the learning
them
lab,
to do
y'all?
it, or
So Learning Lab will ask you different questions about, well, the state Learning Lab, and you could probably,
Is this an online thing?
it is.
it's online.
It is.
Yeah.
CTOlearninglabs.com.
Are they required for the dispensaries?
They are not. I know this because I got on there for lodging tax advisory for, I'm doing the craft learning lab for tourism professionals. So there's a lot on there. CTOlearninglabs.com.
There's one specific for Canyons and Lakes region that really talks about travel tips to the area, what to expect.
And there is one for tourism leaders.
Wow, great.
So, yeah.
Wow.
I'm huge on customers.
Did you do CTO leadership training? I did too. Yeah. Well, this is a great example of problem solving and trying to find solutions. So thank you. That's perfect.
No, it's
I wrote
awesome.
this,
It's
but-
awesome.
No, not at all. This is exactly what our next exercise is all about. So, what we're going to do is revisit. I put them up there. You can grab them back down. Revisit your top 10 priorities, and what you're going to do in your groups is you're going to select at least 3 that you want to brainstorm solutions for. And so I didn't really see any overlap yesterday. We had a lot of overlap, so we had to kind of go through and make sure we weren't all solving for the same issues. So choose your top 3, and then you're going to brainstorm with the stickies solutions and put them next to your priority. So you're just going to go through your list and start coming up with solutions and ideas. And then as a group, you will review all the solutions on the stickies and then really think about the potential impact, how feasible it is, and possible challenges to it. And then you're going to choose like the top 3 to 5 that are the most feasible, the most implementable for each of your top 3. So step 1 is identify the top 3 that you want to try and find solutions for, and then start brainstorming on the stickies, and then pick the ones that you think are the most feasible.
The 3 I think we should do is the one on
volunteers.
Volunteering, and then combining that with the wages and the housing issue. I think those are all 3 that are enmeshed that we
Well-
could work on.
I definitely think the volunteers thing. What about, because there are only 3 we can work on.
Economic sustainability is a big one for us.
Yeah, let's, amen. It's like you start something and it's hard to sustain it, right?
But the other thing that I
Capturing